now. Good, 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 good to be alive right about now. Good, 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 good to be alive right about now. Hallelujah.
Before I start, I wanted to mention, too, our small groups are started back up again. We have one starting on Wednesdays. We have one on Mondays at Jim's house. If you have any questions about small groups, want to get involved in a small group, please see Sarah Prine. She can give you information on that. That's super important. Also, don't forget about these flyers for the Commons on Shea and how that's getting started. We'll have more information next week as we begin to roll out more of the actual pieces to this, and some of the changes are going to be being done on campus as well. So you can hand it out to your friends, let them know what's going on. Heard a lot of good, exciting comments from you guys, and I'm glad that you're excited as we are about it. Okay, if you're new to us today, glad you're here. You picked a great time. We're getting a new series started called Horrible Warnings. I know that sounds like super duper encouraging, but I hope it will be. We are going to be looking at some things that we all struggle with, things that are just going on in our lives, and some stories from the Bible that help us get some perspective on those things. The Bible does talk about good stories, things we should do, and it also has things of what we shouldn't do. And not necessarily in the terms of like a commandment, like don't do this or else. Not that. But really looking at people's lives, that their life is a horrible warning. And the Bible puts it in there for us to learn from and to grow from as well. Again, not just the good examples, but the horrible warnings as well. And each week we're looking at a topic that we struggle with, and then a story that kind of goes with that topic. So last week we looked at what topic? Anybody know? Anger, yeah. If you didn't know that, I was going to get so angry. But yeah, it was about anger. And it was good. This week, we're going to go a different direction. This week, our topic is finishing well. How do we finish well? And that can be in anything, like at school. How do you finish the semester well? Or at work, raising your kids, your relationships, your life and your legacy. How is it with whatever you're looking at, how do you finish well? This past week at our staff meeting, speaking of finishing well, we talked about this. As you know, just a minute ago, we talked about Nolan and Jasper being born to the Langdahl family, and we were talking about it at staff meeting on Wednesday. Now, on Wednesday, Kelly, the mom, was 11 days past due. So we were praying for her, not just to finish well, but to finish, period, right? It's to be done. Well, then, you've been in staff meetings before, right? What do? You start talking a little bit. Well, Corey, our youth minister, he starts stuff. He usually starts things. He asked, well, what's the longest pregnancy ever? Like, what's the record? So what do? You Google it, right? So here's the question. What is the longest human pregnancy? The average human pregnancy is 280 days, a little over 9 months. 280 days. How many say it's 300? 320? 330? 340, 350. Nope, you're all wrong. 375 days. That's 12 and a half months. 12 and a half months. I don't know what Kelly's complaining about, to be honest with you. Just 11 days, like, it's like 2 months, 3 months. Okay, it's huge, right? I mean, that's a long time. Well, then that question went to another question, which was like, who had the most babies? Well, in Russia, in the 18th century, a woman known only as the wife of Fyodor Vaslev in the 18th century reportedly gave birth to 69 children in 27 pregnancies. She had 16 twins, 7 triplets, and 4 quadruplets. Yeah. I don't know if she named them or numbered them. I have no idea. At least it was the 18th century. Can you imagine the cell phone bill for that family? That was today. They've got 69 lines. All right. And then the last question is, how fast? All right, so the Hanselman sextuplets, so 6 babies, right, sextuplets, were born in 1 minute in 2004. 1 minute. Man, I can't say happy birthday that fast, right? 1 minute. I think she's a CrossFitter. It was like 3, 2, 1, go. You know, that's 1 every 10 seconds. So whether it takes 9 months or 12 and a half months, finishing well is super important. When you come to the end of something, whatever it is in your life, how can you finish that well? And I'm not talking about just completing something, checking it off the list. I got that done. I got that diploma. I got that thing checked off. How do you finish well? Most of you know that I was a linguist at University of Georgia. I studied linguistics for a number of years. And when I was there, they actually had in the lobby a journal of linguistics. Like, who reads that thing? Well, somebody does because they write one. In this journal, they had one of the questions was, it was asked at a conference in London. And the question was, no dictionary had a really good definition for finishing and completing, like how they're different, like how those two words different. And so they asked this question to the best linguists in the world, say something, some say there's no difference between complete and finished. Please explain the difference between complete and finished in a way that's easy to understand. It's a pretty good question to ask, I thought. Well, one linguist stood up and gave this definition between these two words. When you marry the right person, you are complete. But when you marry the wrong person, you are finished. When the right one catches you with the wrong one, you are completely finished. All right, we're talking about finishing and finishing well. And I understand that sometimes you get to the end of a long journey or a long project or something, it is real easy to be tired and exhausted, to not have the strength. You may say, you know what, no one's helped me, I'm just exhausted, I just want to quit. That's one temptation. Or maybe you said, I've come far enough, 90%, that's good enough, I'm going to just stop right here and not finish, kind of coast. Or you get complacent and say, I just don't care anymore. I'm just done. Toasted, burned up, had it. And you quit paying attention. Today we're going to look at a story from Israel's history. So as you know, Israel was slaves in Egypt for 400 years. After that, they were set free by God using Moses, and they wandered for 40 years in the deserts of Sinai. That's a long journey. And we're going to look today at the end of that journey. And did they finish well? Again, it's been 40 years, 10 plagues. They crossed the Red Sea. They complained about water, complained about food, got the 10 Commandments, broke the 10 Commandments, got 10 new commandments, more complaining, plagues, fiery serpents, manna for 40 years. It's all they ate for 40 years was manna. They had 40 years living in tents, and in all those 40 years, no internet service. So they're out there all by themselves. And here, at the end, the generation that left Egypt and made this big trek over here to Israel, that generation has died. All of them, except for two. A man named Joshua and a man named Caleb. They're the only two that really finished this journey well with this people. Everyone else is gone. And Joshua is the one who's going to help lead them into the promised land. He's the leader that's going to follow after Moses. And they are so close. After 40 years of wandering and wrestling and eating manna, they're ready to go home, to have a bed that doesn't roll up every night, to put their name on a mailbox, to be done wandering. But they need to finish well. It is so easy at this point to be like, whew, we're here, foot comes off the gas, relax a little bit, you kind of let up and lighten up. Just kind of relax. Now, for example, most of you know that this time of year, although it's still 100 degrees outside, what season is this? No, it's football season, right? Okay, and sometimes you'll see in football players not finish well, like this one from the University of Utah. Watch this. Catches the ball. Watch this right about here. Now keep watching. What happened? The dude dropped the ball before he crossed the goal line, right there. He didn't finish well, did he? He thought he finished well, but that dude took it back the other way and scored a touchdown, okay? So here's the deal. You got to finish well and celebrate well. Next video, who's this? Carson Palmer, right? Remember this play last year? He runs in the end zone, finishes the play, touchdown, But if you're going to finish well, dude, celebrate well. You can't spike the ball and fall on your face, right? This is not the thing to do. Okay, here's the deal. You have to finish well. Well, these guys are there. They're right here. They're about to cross the Jordan River. Now, back in these days, the Jordan River flowed from the Sea of Galilee, up here where Jesus used to hang out, down to the lowest point on the earth, the Dead Sea. I don't know if you know that, but this is the lowest point on the face of the earth, over 1,000 feet below sea level. Okay? This is running really fast down. Back in these days, it's a bigger river, really coming down fast. There's no bridges. So how are you going to get a nation across that river without ever being swept down into the Dead Sea? How are you going to do that without a bridge? Is there any precedent for something like this? Have they seen something like this before? The Red Sea, remember that? Big sea in front of them, and God did what? He parted it so they can go through on dry ground. Well, this generation, except for Joshua and Caleb, haven't seen that. They weren't there for the Red Sea crossing. So this is going to be their Red Sea crossing. This is a new experience for them. And sure enough, they get here at the end of their journey, and Joshua brings down the Ark of the Covenant to the river. It stands up on end. The river stops, like literally stops and stands up, and the nation crosses through on dry ground, just like the Red Sea. It's almost like this bookend, this great story where they enter through the Red Sea, they come back through the Jordan River, and this great kind of bookends to this story. Are they finished? Is that the goal line? No, it's not. Because when they get into this land, God said, I'm bringing you here to make this your land, but to also punish the folks who live there, the Canaanites. They've been doing really bad things. They've been corrupt, evil, and God's going to send them in to destroy these people. That's God's decision to punish them. So when they get into the land, they're not done yet. They got work to do. So they go to the first town they meet, Jericho, right here. And what's Jericho like? It's a big, huge city. It's fancy, schmancy, big, huge walls, impenetrable. And God tells them to walk around the city 7 times, and they do that. And the walls fall down, you know that story? And they all run in, and they burn Jericho to the ground, and they win. Maybe that's the finish line, right? Now they're through the river. They've got into the city, the big city. Every city after that's going to be a piece of cake, right? You take the big guy in the block down, everyone else is going to be a piece of cake. You think that. But then they come to the next city. And that city, well, first let me say this. There's a danger in that. When you begin to thinking like, okay, that's the biggest stuff's over, the hardest thing's done, that's when it's easy to be complacent. Like that guy running the football, right? Hey, there's the goal line right there. Boom, drop the ball and start celebrating. You do a little too early, you get in huge trouble. Well, the same thing here. Complacency, letting our guard down, is super dangerous for all of us. We stop striving for the goal line. We just kind of want to coast. Instead of hearing and living stories of faithfulness, we kind of just give up. Well, after Jericho, they move on to a little city called Ai, A-I. It's right here. So here's Jericho, here's Ai. Little tiny city. The word Ai in Hebrew means ruin. So you want to live in a town called Ruin? Not much to see there, right? It means it's a little bitty town called Ruin. That's how they describe themselves. By the way, just not unusual for a town to have a weird name. United States, there's a town called Accident. That'd be hard to live there too. Where do you live? Accident. You know, okay. There's this one, Toadsuck, Arkansas. Who thought of that name? Like seriously, I don't know. It's called a place Toadsuck. All right. This one, I can't pronounce that. Look at that. Put that on your driver's license. Type that all the time. That's a crazy name. Then there's this one. You know this one, right? Why Arizona? In the summer, it's a great question. Right? Why? Because although in the summer you could leave and go to, why not, Mississippi? Be a snowbird there. So you got these weird names of cities, and so I is not much different. Well, so small, so ruinous that the spies get sent out to check out Ai, and they said, man, this place is like nothing. So don't send everybody, Joshua. Don't send the big army. Just send a couple thousand people. We'll knock them out and move on. So Joshua sends 3,000 people to attack the city of Ai. Guess what happens? They come running back. They've been routed by the town of Ruin. It's like losing to Arizona, University of Arizona in football. It's like the worst, right? Sorry. They come running back, 36 of them die, and you're thinking, they're like, what happened? Like, we just knocked off the biggest kids on the block, right? We just beat Alabama, the biggest ones. And now we lost to U of A? Like, come on, right? Just a little bitty town. What did we do wrong? What happened? How were they routed by ruin? Well, Joshua begins looking for answers. He goes and he prays, falls on his face before God and says, God, like, what happened? Why did you bring us here? To destroy us? Well, what is happening here? In fact, God, we look bad for losing. Everyone's going to try to wipe us out because of how bad we look after this. And you're going to look bad too, God. Like, what is going on? And here's God's response in Joshua 7. The Lord said to Joshua, stand up. Why have you fallen on your face? Israel has sinned. They have transgressed my covenant that I imposed upon them. They have taken some of the devoted things. They have stolen. They have acted deceitfully. They have put them among their own belongings. Therefore, the Israelites are unable to stand before their enemies. They turn their backs to their enemies because they have become a thing devoted for destruction themselves. I will be with you no more unless you destroy the devoted things from among you. It's like, God's like, look, don't come to me. I didn't do this. You did this. You broke your promise to me. Now, what is he talking about here? What are these devoted things? Remember I told you earlier that they were going into the land to punish the Canaanites. God had said, I'm going to punish the Canaanites who live there. I'm going to use you guys to do it. So whose battle is this really? It's God's. This is God's battle. God brings them victory. They don't. And here at the very end of their journey, they begin to forget that. Like, hey, look at all this stuff. Keep all this stuff for ourselves. The guy said, no, that is not your stuff. That's my stuff. So you're going to take their stuff, the Canaanites, and you're going to burn it. You're not going to use their stuff. It won't corrupt you. You're getting rid of it. It's devoted for destruction. You don't get to keep their stuff. You trust me. You don't get to come into this city and become complacent and take their stuff and live off their stuff. That's mine. So it was devoted for destruction, and they were keeping it. Now here's the question. How many people does it take for the whole nation to suffer? Because again, this is not about plunder. It's about punishment. And it's God's punishment for the Canaanites. Sometimes that can happen to us as well. We can become complacent like that. We come to some crisis in our life, right? Some big thing is happening at work or at school or in a relationship. Something's just tearing you apart, right? And you're in bed at night and you're looking at the ceiling and you see those shadows coming in and you can't sleep and you're worried. And all you can think about is this knot in your stomach. And like Joshua, you fall on your knees and you pray and you pray and you pray for something to change in your attitude or the situation. And then things go well. It rectifies itself. Crisis averted. Like, wow, phew, I feel so much better now. What's the temptation at that moment? To put God back on the shelf. To forget the God who got you there. To kind of like just give up and stop moving forward. We begin to think that maybe we did it, or it was just a coincidence that this happened. We settle back into the old ways we used to do things. We become complacent, and God becomes just a spiritual valet who helps us when we need it. That's the most dangerous part of not finishing well, is complacency. And complacency just doesn't affect you, it affects all those around you. Our family, our friends, our communities. When we're complacent, it affects other people. Like in that video, that whole team of Utah was affected by one guy's complacency. It affects all of us. Go back to verse 11. It says here, they have taken some of the devoted things. They have stolen. They have acted deceitfully. They have put things among their own belongings. Doesn't it sound like it's a bunch of plurals? It is in Hebrew, right? This is about they did it. Did all of them do it? Did all of them have take some things like that? Well, we're going to find out here in a second, because God goes to Joshua and says, you know what, we're going to solve this problem right now. We're going to figure out what's going on and get you guys back on the right path. So the next day, God calls out everybody, the whole nation. And we're all standing there with this defeat fresh in their mind, wondering what's going on. They're all standing there, and God says, I'm going to call out one tribe who stole from me. Judah. Everyone else take a step back. Uh-oh. Right now you're like, if you're in Judah, you're kind of like, this is not good for me. And then he calls out the clan. Then he calls out the family. Now, if you're the one who stole, when do you confess? Or do you just wait and hope that this is just a coincidence? So they stand there, this family, and this one person, one man, gets called out. One. His name was Achan. One man was called out for having stolen from God, and the entire nation suffered. Joshua 7:20. And Achan answered Joshua, it is true, I am the one who sinned against the Lord God of Israel. This is what I did. When I saw among the spoils a beautiful mantle from Shinar, and 200 shekels of silver, and a bar of gold weighing 50 shekels, then I coveted them and took them. They now lie hidden in the ground inside my tent with the silver underneath. And he confesses. One person doesn't finish well, and the entire nation suffer. Joshua says to him, why? 36 people died because of you, Achan. Why did you do this? And his answer is not given. We don't hear from Achan again. We don't know why he did this, other than he just wanted it. We don't know why he got complacent or why he didn't finish well. And I think the Bible doesn't give us his answer because he wants us to answer that for ourselves. This is our question. Why do we do what we do? Why do we get complacent sometimes? What drives and motivates us? It's a great question that this story leaves open for us. I think there's two parts to the question it asks. Number one is, are we aware that our actions, thoughts, words, all that have consequences? I think we know the answer to that is yes. Like, we know that when we do things, there's consequences for that. We know that. There's a second part too. Are we aware that our actions, words, and thoughts affect others around us? We go, yeah, sometimes, maybe, on certain occasions, not all the time. That's where temptation sneaks in. Because the truth is, what we do, think, say, those words we use do make a difference and have consequences for those around us. We don't live in a vacuum. There's no such thing as a victimless crime. There's always a victim. If it's us, ourselves, if it's the God we're betraying, right? He sinned against God. God's the victim in that situation. The people around us, those in our community. We need to finish well and finish well together. Complacency is not an option because there's consequences for stopping early. And God wants us to finish well. He does. I mean, he knows it's difficult. Whether you're, in school or work or retiring, wherever you are in your life, there are consequences if we don't finish what we're doing well. And it's true of us as a church too. We need to finish well. There's no coasting. There is no complacency. There's no getting into a rut. You know what a rut is, by the way? A rut? It's a grave. Rut is. Right? It's just this place you get stuck in. It's a grave with the ends knocked out. In fact, I'll say this. I think there's a reason why Jesus doesn't give us a timetable for his return. Right? Jesus said he's returning soon. Remember that? I'm coming soon. That was 2,000 years ago. So why doesn't he give us a timetable? Well, folks come to me and they'll ask, hey, Frank, when do you think Jesus is coming back? You know my question back to them always is, every time. You know what it is? Why are you asking? Why do you want to know? Like, why do you want to know when he's coming back? Like, what's your motivation? Because if you're asking so that you can, repent at the last second, it's not a good reason. If you want to say, well, he's coming back soon so I can kind of coast into heaven, not a good reason. I think we don't know where the goal line is because he sets it for us to keep moving forward to chase after it. We don't stop moving forward. We don't stop innovating. We don't stop doing new things. We don't stop growing. That means being aware of every situation we are in and doing our best in that situation. Not saying, well, I'll coast over here, but do well over here. Wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, do it well. Finish well. Because today could be the goal line. So run past it today. And then tomorrow, run past that one. Then run past that one. But finish well in whatever situation you're in, wherever you find yourself. One of my favorite stories is of a minister who was in Hawaii, of all places, for a conference. And because of the time change, he was back from New York. He got up at like 3 a.m, couldn't sleep because his clock was all off. And so he gets up and he goes to this little kind of grungy dive breakfast place, open at 3 a.m. to get some coffee and some breakfast. Well, as he's sitting there at 3:30 in the morning, 8 or 9 prostitutes walk in, finishing with their night of work. They come in there and they're all sitting there talking, having coffee. He's kind of like uneasy. Like he's sitting here going, what do I do? There's all these prostitutes here and I'm sitting here by myself. And he's just really uneasy. And he's kind of planning on just paying his bill and kind of getting out of there. And here's one woman say to the other, hey, guess what? Tomorrow's my birthday. I'll be 39. And this woman says to her friend, nastily, so what do you mean do for you? Throw you a party? Let me get you a cake? What do you want from me? She says, well, nothing. I was just kind of saying it's my birthday. I didn't want anything from you. Just letting you know what's going on. He hears this. He starts thinking, like, what's he going to do in this situation? Right here, right now. He could leave, pay his bill, and just leave, but he doesn't. They leave. He stays. He talks to the owner, the cook there, and he says, you supposed to come in here a lot? He's like, yeah, every night they're here. So what's the lady's name with the birthday? Oh, that's Agnes. They tell you what, how about this? You bake a cake, we'll get her friends together, put up a banner, and tomorrow night we'll celebrate her birthday. He's like, all right, that sounds cool. So they do. They get the friends, they call some friends up, the cook does, makes a cake, the minister makes a banner, happy birthday, Agnes, goes in at 2:30 the next night, puts the banner up, 3:30 they come in, happy birthday, Agnes, and she is just like floored, like what is going on? Mouth open, looks at the cake, and is just speechless. And then she says, can we not eat the cake quite yet? I want to take it to show my friends. Takes the cake upstairs to show her friends and her roommates that she got a cake for her birthday. Because it just stuck with her. It motivated, it moved her. While that was going on, the minister says, you know what, tell you what, can we just stop for a second and pray for Agnes? Pretty bold move. Let's pray together that her life will be changed and they got to be good to her. And so they do. They pray for her right there in that little dive bar restaurant. Then the owner, his name was Harry, leans over and says, kind of in a nasty voice, like, you never told me you were a preacher. What kind of church do you belong to anyway? And the minister said, well, I belong to the kind of church that throws parties for prostitutes at 3 o'clock in the morning. And Harry says, no, you don't. There's no church like that. If there's a church like that, I'd go to that church. You see what I'm getting at? He could have walked away, could have left, no big deal. No one would have known, life as usual. But he finished well in that particular moment. He finished well with his purpose for Christ in that moment. It made a difference in the lives of not just that prostitute, but the whole community of people and that owner. It's not someone else's responsibility to finish well. It's our responsibility to finish well. To not get complacent, to keep moving forward, to keep striving, no matter where you are in life, to strive hard to finish well with what you're doing right now. Finish well. Make a difference in your world with whatever you're doing to do the very best for Christ that you can. Finish well.
I think I finally found my hallelujah. I've been waiting for this moment all my life now. All my dreams are coming true, yeah. I've been waiting for this moment. It's good to be alive right about now.